What if AI isn't here to replace our creativity, but instead provide us an opportunity to refine and enhance our creative capabilities as human beings? Hey, it's JR, and in today's episode of the Level Up Business Podcast, we're diving into the wild and ever-evolving world of creative work in the age of AI with Brad Swonetz. Brad is a commercial photographer. He's a creative director who's been telling visual stories for nearly 30 years. Now, Brad's entrepreneurial journey is anything but traditional. Brad went from pre-med to psychology to sculpture to photography, and now Brad is a brand strategist. He has seen creativity through every lens, almost literally, and through every angle. And today, Brad and I discuss what it means to stay real in a world full of AI-generated everything. I was even just recently reading an article that went back to 2022, and it predicted by the end of 2025, which is where we are now as of recording this episode, that about 90% of the internet would be AI generated. Well, it's the end of 2025 now, and it's not 90%, but it's over 50% according to some recent research. And I think, well, what would the world look like? What will the world look like when the internet is 90% AI generated? And that's one reason, one of the things that Brad and I talked about was how analog might be making a comeback, and most importantly, why the human experience still matters more than the tools we use. But first, are you a visionary entrepreneur who wants to elevate your brand and expand your influence to increase your impact? If this is you, you are the reason that we are on a mission here to amplify the voices of visionary entrepreneurs by unlocking their wisdom, sharing their stories, and publishing their books. So when you are ready to level up your business and your life, send me a text, 832-240-1922. That's because I want to teach you. I want to teach you to amplify your voice so that your mission and message are seen, known, and heard by the people who need your help the most. Now, let's get ready to learn. Let's get ready to grow. Let's get ready to level up together with Brad. Welcome to the show, Brad. I am so looking forward to our conversation today. It's an important topic. I think a lot of people are they're not just thinking about this, they're feeling it. The human experience in the age of AI. And before we get too far ahead into that, what is good in your world? Give me some good news. What is positive right now to begin with?
There's a couple things. Work's been great, which is great. I'm in the process of, in the next few months, moving back to California, where I'm from, San Diego. So that's exciting. And what else is good? I mean, just kind of family stuff. Everything's, yeah.
Well, I have to ask, and this is a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
Your favorite animal?
My favorite animal. Well, I usually go sloth. And it's a kind of a funny story. I went and studied abroad in Costa Rica as a college student. And I met this guy before I left that turns out he's one of my best friends now. And he asked me why I was going to Costa Rica, and I said, because there's sloths there. That was it. Like, he was like, who is this guy? A guy that's going to Costa Rica? I mean, that wasn't the reason, but that was my reason for him. And since then, we've been like super tight. But yeah, anyway.
That is sloth. So cool.
And sloth or dolphin.
Well, and you went to school for sculpture, but you ended up in photography.
I actually went to school for pre-med, ended up in psychology, then ended up in sculpture, which was art studio, and then from there, my last quarter of school, I took a photo course. I never liked taking photos before that. I surfed and skated, and all the people I knew that were photographers were taking pictures of surfing and skating, and I was like, I don't want to sit down and do that. I want to like be. I'm a pretty active person. Just I can't stop moving very well, and so I didn't think photography was for me. But my last quarter of school, I asked my grandparents and my parents for a camera. I had like a little point and shoot, but I didn't have a real camera. And they gave it to me for my birthday or something. and I started that last quarter of school, and I never left the darkroom. It was super fun, and I loved it, and ended up asking the TA. This is a long story. I don't know if you want to hear the whole thing, but
No, this is the wisdom of
yeah.
you want to bring to the world with the Level of Business podcast. So please continue.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a level of ignorance that I had at the time that was like, oh, I can do anything, right? And which is great. And I asked the TA at the time. I said, "Hey, how do I do this for a living? This would be really cool." And he said, "Well, go to LA and become a photo assistant." And 2 weeks later, it was graduation, and I moved to LA that week, and I had a job as a photo assistant by the next week. Just a crazy random series of events got me a photo job, or a photo assisting job.
Wow.
I went there with no job. In a week, I had one. It was crazy, kind of meant to be kind of thing. So.
When you think back on that experience from pre-med to psychology to art studio to photography,
Yeah.
what did you learn about yourself? And even because you've been shooting photography for how long now?
26 years, almost 27 probably.
So, I mean, if we put that into context, it's like 1998, 99.
Yeah.
The internet, I mean, was in its infancy back then.
Yeah.
And digital was still just, I mean, I remember
No.
my first megapixel camera. Like I got it it was like maybe like 3 megapixels, and it was a package deal buying a Dell computer in like 97 or 98. So it was just
Oh,
interesting.
really? You had
Yeah.
one back then. I didn't have a digital camera until way later, and I shot film, my early career, and I assisted for 6 years as well, from like
Hmm.
22 until 28, and I was loading, like half my job was to load film,
Right.
and it was a totally different thing. I mean, films had it's stayed, there's definitely been people shooting film, but right now I feel like there's a lot more people going back to analog right now.
Yeah.
And it's it's been an interesting thing. I think I don't from medium format film, which you get 10 frames, right?
Right.
Each roll you get 10 frames. So it's much more sacred. It's much more, you have to really have it locked down. We used to shoot Polaroid before we shot the film to make sure, if I was going to shoot a portrait of you, I would want the light on, the backlight that's hitting your head right now. I'd want to see that before I
Hmm.
shot it in film. So, it's just the process was so much slower, was so much more deliberate, and now it's totally different. I don't think it's worse or better. I actually love the way I can shoot now because I can get moments that I didn't used to get as easily, at least. So yeah,
It's
I could ramble on about photography forever. So cut me off whenever.
No, but I think it's interesting what you're sharing here is people are going back to analog, and that's an interesting, maybe a not so talked about trend.
Yeah.
That and I mean, I come from the digital world. It's like I got into the digital space in 2002, and then through that experience building websites became very interested in the human experience through a digital context. And now it's like, we're unlocking the wisdom of entrepreneurs to share that to the world. And I do see that there's a bit of a more of a, take what you were talking about, deliberate, intentional. And just because you can accelerate with AI, for example, doesn't mean that you should. Doesn't make it better. Doesn't make it worse. I think it's a contextual frame right there. And if we remove that and we look at more of the the meaning behind what we're doing. And I think, for example, you take the work of like Marshall McLuhan. He was talking about how like meaning and medium are more powerful than like, the mediums of what we communicate are more powerful than how we're communicating, what we're communicating. Like the medium is the message in his work. But go back to your point that people are starting to perhaps transition back to analog. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Because I think that's just an interesting trend.
Well, I mean, it's not everybody, right? It's very
No.
specific. It's very specific, and and you can basically. I mean, I don't think you can necessarily get exactly what you can with film with digital, but film, what I think a lot of people like about it right now, in general, ever, is that you get what you get, kind of, and the colors are already baked into that film, whereas with digital, there's a lot of steps, right? And maybe, I don't know, maybe the AI analogy is kind of interesting with that too. I mean, I do so much in AI now because I'm not only a photographer, I have a branding company as well. And
Mhm.
and I will sit there and figure stuff out with chat that takes a heck of a long time to do on my own. Whereas maybe just asking, if I had, a freelancer or an employee to ask, that might be as much time or less time, who knows? But I think, same thing with the digital. I don't know if this metaphor or this analogy is coming off well, but the same thing with the digital photography. You can get to make it look analog, right? But it
Mhm.
takes a ton of steps. Whereas if you just shoot it film, you can take it to the lab. It takes longer, right? You take it to the lab, they develop the film, or you do it yourself, and then you bring it back, and you've got that look baked in already. And a you don't have to be a digital genius to do it, right? You don't have to be like, you know, a just you can basically be a photographer and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Where now, I mean, since digital, you had to be a photographer, a digital tech, uh, uh, almost a designer, the guy at the lab, the person, adding grain if you want grain or taking it
Right.
away if you don't. Whereas a photographer that just wants to be an artist can go and shoot, portrait, Kodak portrait, and get the look they're looking for and push it or pull it. Maybe that's the only thing they need to do, which I don't know. That's a lab thing, but getting into the weeds here. But maybe the same thing with AI was, I think what you were getting at is like we might be getting to the same place, but taking extra steps. It's interesting. I don't know. I never really thought about that.
Well, and I think because a lot of this is, if you think about the journey that you've been on, it is, for lack of a better word, and it's the creative process. And it's like how does creativity transform in the age of AI? Because we do have this other capability that we could co-create with, but are there constraints? Are there limiting constraints? Because it is artificial intelligence based upon what what it has learned essentially from the large language models.
Yeah.
And then that's where, for me, I am more interested in the authentic intelligence that comes from lived, learned, shared experience, because there are nuances that artificial intelligence, and it may catch up. I don't know. Like, I think there's a spiritual side to this as well, that, how does that all play in? But when it comes to the creative process, when it comes to the creative expression, and that's part of the entrepreneurial journey, entrepreneurs are creating, and in many times creating something that did not exist before, but there's nothing new under the sun. So it probably existed in some context. It's just a different creative expression, I guess, is
Yeah.
what, and
Yeah. And I get what you're saying. And I think it's interesting the way I use it. I mean, I use it constantly. So
well,
by,
give context to that. Cause like you said,
I
you're doing
mean,
branding side of things.
Yeah, let's say I have some kind of label to design, or, I'm doing packaging design or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I may feed it in a concept to get an initial reaction sometimes. Also, an initial mock-up. It does great, like ChatGPT or Gemini or any of those do some great mock-ups and creative work, where it definitely takes out some steps. And then you can look at it and you can go, I mean, I think I've had this discussion with a lot of my friends that are in the creative world too, is like, you still need to be able to talk to it like you would be, my 8 years before going back out on my own, the past 8 years, I was a creative director, and you still have to talk to it like a creative director. You can't just be like, make me something, otherwise it's just going to look like whatever, and then also you get that mock-up or you get that thing and you take it into your programs and you manipulate it the way you would, but it's a great jumping off point. It's pretty remarkable. And then writing code too. I mean, I work on websites. I'm kind of a bit of a jack of all trades. I had to be, because I mean, as yourself, I've started some companies, and early ecom. I made our first ecom site on Drupal, and I had to learn PHP and
HP.
MySQL and
Uh-huh.
and all that, and so just by need, I've become kind of a jack of all trades, and so I had it. I have another company I'm working on. We're making a product, and there's a subscription part of it, and I would have had to it wouldn't work straight out of the box. So I had to create the subscription thing to work with Shopify and everything like that. Took a long time, but I mean, it's just incredible. It's insane. So,
And I think I want to roll back to something that you said that is important for those watching and listening to consider, is communication. Because I need to communicate to it like I would, for example, in the creative process, label, packaging, etc. I need to communicate like I would as an art director. I can't just say, make me something.
right.
So that capability of communication is a capability that I see a lot of people, they struggle with in the human experience to begin with, just human to human communication. And then if we're struggling with human to human communication, then could we say, well, would it be a challenge then to struggle with communicating to the AI
Right.
of what it is that we really want? Not just,
Yeah.
and being in the creative space myself, like, how frustrating is it when you hear from a client, like, make my logo bigger, or just some like, it's so subjective that there's
Yeah.
not a contextual, like, well, what do you mean? Can you express that? How much of communication is going to be critical in this age of AI, whether it's from a human to human conversation, or to use that capability to get the output, because the output of the AI is only going to be as good as the input. And we, in this particular case, in our communication, is the input of the AI.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you haven't seen a ton of, people just making amazing work that didn't already make really good work. I don't think so, but I also don't know enough about, what's being put out there.
Right.
But I think you're right. I mean, you have to give it what you want. I mean, if I went with the first thing it spat out every time, definitely wouldn't have a job.
Yeah. Right.
It'd be like, oh wow, that's great. It looks like print shop in 1985 or whatever. So you definitely have to manipulate it. You have to talk to it. You have to also load it up with stuff that that you like. But I don't think I don't think it's going away. So I think that people should really get on it and go, okay, I can make this stuff happen this way.
Is that a skill? Is that a capability though? And like, because I don't know, like I think about your experience, going all the way back to Costa Rica, and
Yeah.
like sloths to pre-med to psychology to art, and being in the studio to being in the lab with photography. You have a wide perspective and a wide experiences, the surfing, the skating. It's like, because you've got this broad perspective, how much is that going to shape how we use AI as a capability? It's like, is it a capability that we're going to have to learn that might come more natural to some, but it comes natural to them because of their life experience, their authentic intelligence, to then leverage the artificial intelligence, versus if you've had a very, we'll just say, structured life, it might be a little bit different, and it might be more challenging to
Yeah.
use artificial intelligence.
For sure. I think you're right. And I think that it's just what you know, right? It's just
Right.
it's like an extension of what you're going to do anyway, right? I mean, you obviously you've got your own businesses, you've taken chances. There's people that don't take chances, that wouldn't even ask the whatever chat to do the thing. So
Right.
so I think it still needs the person to either be good at, or know what they want, be outgoing and creative in terms of, okay, I can do this. I think also understand that you can do it, right? Because people are scared of it. I mean, I think it's kind of the same. I mean, it's funny that we're talking about it this way, because I never thought of it this way, but it's kind of the same thing as, however you took that leap to be like, I can do this, I cannot work 9 to 5 with, working for somebody for the rest of my life. I can do this. And I'm not saying one way is better than the other. I'm just saying you have whatever that is, and that's not going to change. And AI is just going to help that part of it. I think, AI will definitely, it's just, I'm scared of it too. Don't get me wrong. And I see the jobs that it's taking away, and that it's making certain things obsolete, not obsolete, but a lot less enticing. I mean, there's freelancers that I don't have to hire now because of AI, and I feel bad for that sometimes, but I also, that's just the way things are going,
Well, and here's I've been thinking a lot about this and the fear mongering around AI, and I'm still trying to frame my own opinion on this, and it waffles, and it's like I always say I'm right until I get new data, and then I reserve the right to change my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's like, where attention goes, energy is going to flow. And if our attention is on the scarcity side of things, the loss, versus on the potential for abundant creativity, is that what we're going to end up with? And I know this is a very, like, even a more macro, like, if the human consciousness is focused on loss, scarcity, it's going to be bad. Well, that's what we're going to get, because that's where human consciousness is. Versus
Right.
if we're like, you know what, this could be, it's kind of like the internet, and we've gone through these periods of time before, but and I think we can learn from it. Like, for example, we went from an agricultural economy to an industrial economy. And I think, I try to put it into context. Like, for example, I was born in 1981. So let's say I was born in 1881. Well, what would I experience between 1881 and 1925? I would see transportation. The horse and buggy would have been the primary transportation growing up. And then, I would see railroads start to come through my town. And so you get the increased speed of transportation. And then I would see in the early 1900s cars, and then moving into the 20s and 30s, like airplanes, flight. And that's in a 45-year period of time. And then if you think about communication, I would have seen next to the railroads, I would have seen telegraph lines. So communication would have gone from written letter to now we got telegraph, and then the telegraph would become the telephone, and telephone would become radio, and then early TV. So it's like I could see resistance back then. It's like, people who were horse and buggy, they were resistant to the car. And it's like, is there a matter of like we should build and I get it, like the human mind is designed to be a threat detection and look for the danger, if you will, but what if the opportunity is to continue to look for the opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two sides of this, right? The scary part to me is the you know the lack of jobs, maybe, right? And maybe the atrophy of certain parts of your brain. There's that.
That's a great point. Yeah, we'll come back to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But I also think that atrophy can be lessened, or if you're using it to learn too. I mean, for some people, I think I've listened to so many podcasts on it, so I may be regurgitating other people's words here. But if you use it as a conversation rather than just, hey, what's this? And you're learning from it. I feel like I learn a lot from AI. I feel like I also can do more things. It's actually, yesterday I had a really great experience where I felt like, gosh, I'm feeling even more creative because of this, But there are people that, and myself included, that use it for just simple tasks and simple things that I do worry about the brain and whether that's going to affect the way, our pathways and how we see things and whatnot. And I mean, I think the most I worry is about the kids, right? Because I'm watching the jobs that I am partially cutting out from, I still have my freelancers that I work with, and I still, the employee part is still going to be there,
Yeah.
but it's just less, and it's already been hard enough for the younger generations to get jobs out of college. And I just feel like, oh gosh, this is really going to just compound that. But it is what it is. We let it out into the wild, I think, too soon. Like I think it was definitely let out way too soon, and now we're kind of like, oh, we're stuck with it. And if you don't start using it, I mean, I don't know if you use have you used Nano Banana yet?
No, tell me about Nano Banana. I
Well,
gotta.
well, Gemini, it's a Gemini, it's a Google product, and it's crazy. And I don't even want to talk about it because for the photography industry, it's really quite scary. You can basically take, let's say, a picture of you, right? Like in that room. And then you can take a picture of a super cool, like, I don't know, name it, high fashion brand or
Yeah.
streetwear brand, piece of clothing off figure. And then you can feed it a picture of, let's say, a cool scene under a street lamp at night. And you basically say, hey, can you put this all together with a couple instructions, and it stitches it all together, and you would be in that high fashion suit in front of, let's say, an old car with like insane movie lighting or something. It's pretty crazy where it's at. I mean, I think I think it can definitely, you can tell sometimes, but it's pretty amazing. It's a great image generator too. Um, but yeah, it's insane.
So
I don't
that's a
know where I got there, but how I
no,
got
no,
there.
no. I'm gonna roll back because I think that you come from the world of photography and creativity and art directing. Where will there be a time that we'll call it a revolt, that people will want to go back to the real, the authentic? Because yes, you can create the artificial image as you
Yeah.
were describing here. I'm even looking at, like, for example, Nano Banana for architecture, and I've seen some of that deployed now that I've got a little bit more context into this. It's like, oh, that's not real. That's a AI generated space,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like it's cool. Like, there's a cool factor. There's like a parlor trick factor to it, and I'm doing a keynote on this next week actually, and we'll be using some of this. But it's like, at what point do people say, you know what? No, I want the real thing. I want the real picture. I want the grainy. I want the grit. I mean, even this
I,
conversation could be AI generated,
right.
and
Right.
but it's just like, that's what it's like. Will we see a revolt? Because it's almost like people going back to analog. You talk about, like, photography. People are going
Yeah.
back to analog. I will tell you, with 4 kids, we've done a really cool thing. All of our photos in Google that I've taken, I am now printing them. We're
Yeah.
talking, like, you know, by the time
Thousand.
we're done, thousands.
Yeah.
But you know what my kids are longing for?
Yeah.
They want to touch it. And
Yeah.
these kids, like, because I grew up, 80s, 90s, VHS, CD, etc.
Yeah.
Like, my kids are longing for the real.
Yeah.
It, fascinating observation.
They need
What do you?
that rewinder, the VHS rewinder,
Oh yeah, they
Remember?
do. Yeah, God, rewind.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't I think I think there already is. I talk to there's certain friends of mine that are so anti-AI, and I totally get it. And I I love analog. I've got a whole record collection downstairs. And I still have my film cameras. I don't shoot a lot of film anymore. But I don't think you're wrong. And I think, but I think commercially, I think what I've seen over the years commercially, especially as a photographer too, is like most most companies don't they'd like to bring down the budget rather than bring it up, and I think that it's not it's just another way to make it more accessible. Like, let's say you don't, maybe you do shoot your product and you shoot everything, but you don't shoot it in the Bahamas anymore. You shoot
Right.
it on a set or something, and then you can make it look like it's in the Bahamas. I don't think that's necessarily like, I love that I don't have to do that right now, and I still get to go and shoot in cool places. And I think there's always going to be a place for it, but I think there's going to be less of a barrier to entry for smaller companies too, to make
Yeah.
really, really insanely produced stuff that you couldn't do in the past. And it may look a little bit more AI, but what I've seen just in the past 2 years, I was building stuff at the last couple companies that I was a creative director in AI, and it was like, oh, this is good to, like, a jumping off point, or something like super small or something like that. But to now is insane. And then you add some grain to that, or you add, if you are somebody that knows what a real photo should look like, then
Yeah.
you can. I'm not saying I'm a proponent of it.
Right.
I still think going out and shooting it is, in a lot of cases, easier too, because just like the film, you go out there, you shoot it, you have it done. You're not sitting there prompting for days on end to get it right. You get it
Mhm.
right in camera, and then you bring it back, and then you've got it right. So but I do see that there's a future in which things are pretty close to, especially like, certain types of photography or certain types of design or architectural mock-ups, not necessarily like architectural photos, but the places that are safe with photography are like event photography and family photography and things like that. Those are the safe places, and weddings, but a lot of the other places, I do see the technology getting so good that, I mean, you look at some of the deep fake, looking video stuff. I mean, it's pretty remarkable, so.
Well, and I think that's the to me that's the crux of it. It's like truth and honesty, and I don't know another way to use this, but I think about like some of the work that Chris Walker is doing around frequency. And is the creative process and what we create, is there a level of, and I know I'm going like way off the deep end on this for some people, but it's just where my mind is right now. You get like quantum, and it's like when we put something out into the field and we do it with a certain intention, and there's an energy or a frequency attached to that, do people then pick up and resonate with that frequency on the other end of the spectrum? And you're talking about, for example, the deep fakes. I think it's an interesting observation, and that's all I'm going to call it because that's how I'm looking at it right now. It's an observation that you have fake influencers promoting a product, saying this is the best thing that I've ever used, but that fake influencer doesn't exist and they've never used the product to begin with in the first place. But their communication and their ability to then influence someone's behavior is artificial. And that's where I'm trying to like grapple with these things in my own mind.
Yeah, I can't quite grapple with it. I don't like it. I don't think it's honest either.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, then it's like, why? And then we're getting to like almost the core fabric of the human experience and the human connection. Does that, like, social media impacted trust and the way that we connect and or don't connect now?
Yeah.
Does this further fray the connections that we have in the human experience? And I mean, you think about all the photography that you've done and the subjects and the people that you've shared time with.
Yeah.
That's why I think you bring an interesting context to this.
Well, that's a good point because, I mean, for me, and for a lot of people, photography is all about the experience, right? And like, I think I've always kind of said that it's more about the conversation than it is the photo, at least in
what way?
in not necessarily in every type of photography, but portrait photography for sure. I think because you have to experience something with somebody to get them to feel comfortable with you, and you have to be genuinely interested, and it is an experience. So people are still going to want that experience. Like on a big photo shoot, it's super fun. We have a great time. It might be stressful. It might be, we might, have to change things and all that. But at the end of the day, we're a big group of people having a ton of fun, making really cool stuff and enjoying the process. And when that's cut out, that's going to be a sad thing if it is cut out. But I think a lot of people and brands and are going to want that authentic experience, to your point. I hope, right? And but talking to people, I think they will. And there's going to be certain things. I mean, you see the fake headshots all the time now, right? And
you can I don't know, like you can feel it.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, come on.
Yeah.
And I don't. Does it feel?
I think there will become a time where you can do, or there already is a time, but it's not perfect yet. But you can do. Let's say I do a shoot with you, and we do a ton of great photos, and then you'll be able to train something on that. The problem is people change, right? And so this is something I've been thinking, a lot of people have been thinking about, just not just me, but if you're like an actor or somebody of influence, or politician or whatever, you do change throughout the years.
Yes.
So you need. I mean, that's why portrait photography exists is because you change, and you can't just do one picture,
Yes, a
especially
snapshot.
let's say you're an actor or whatever. You've got to show people who you really are and what you look like. So I think that's what's lacking in those AI things. I mean, the AI portrait stuff is, you can tell right off the bat, and they're very slick and stuff. But yeah, it's funny. I'm totally conflicted about this whole thing, um, because there's a part of me that I don't just have a photo business, right? And I have the design and creative direction kind of part of it, and I
Correct.
see where that can be used in commerce, and to get things out there pretty quickly. I'm not talking about the deep fake stuff, but I'm talking about advertising, quick ads and things like that. So I do see the value in it. So I'm just, it's like the devil and the angel on the shoulders, and I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, and that's where I appreciate the wisdom that you have shared, because a you're not the only one, and I think the important word here is feeling this, because it
Yeah.
is a feeling. You're not the only one who's feeling this. I'm feeling this myself. There are others that I've had these conversations with, and I think just simply, if we can have the dialogue and we have the discussion, it comes back. And I want to wrap up on this thought right here. You talked about before taking a chance, and it's like, this is a chance. I think this is an opportunity to think about how the deeper meaning, like, what is trust, what is connection, what is conversation, what is real, what is truth, and how do we ensure that what has held people together. For example, like, I love story, I love narrative, because we think about, like, we'll use the broad brush of marketing. um, and I ask people, well, when I do workshops, what is marketing? And it's to get to understand where they're at. It's not to sway them one way or another to begin with. It's just, where are you? And a lot of people will think about marketing, and they'll think about the ads. You mentioned advertising. They'll think about the creative output. But if I start to reframe, I'm like, well, marketing is really, it's just communication. And it's the mediums of which we communicate that change. But if you think about communication and story and narrative, well, that's comes back to voice. And then you think about, um, you know, being around a campfire, in a cave, and you were talking about your day and the animal that you killed. And so someone said, well, I want to memorialize this. And so they reached down and they got some ash, and then they painted a picture on the cave wall. So now we've got images. So we got voice. And now we've got images and stories and narratives. And that's how we communicated and
Yeah.
connect for thousands of years, up until the 1500s, when we got this exponential capability. To, yes, people were writing, but it wasn't to the masses, if you will, with the printing press, Gutenberg's
Yeah.
printing press. And that's when we saw an exponential change of communication. And then we go and we flash forward, and then you get to the 1900s, and then you got digital, the internet, radio, TV, all that. So there are just some things of story, narrative, that connect us in ways that haven't changed over time. So I don't know. I don't have
Yeah.
any.
No, I think that's great. I think you're right. And I think that we are out there, right? We're all out there, and we're able to form new stories.
Mhm.
AI has only the stories we give it, right? So, there's something there too. I mean, who knows? Maybe it does make up stories if you ask it to, but without the stories we've given it, they're not,
Correct.
so I don't know.
Well, as we wrap up, I always want to send someone away who has made it this far in our conversation. And first and foremost, just thank them for sharing time with us, for investing your time to share with Brad and myself. But what's the one thing that you would recommend that they do next so that they can move forward? And in this particular case, move forward and create, I'd say create with confidence, create with people in mind, create value in this age of AI. I mean, that is your wisdom. You're coming from the creative space, photography, creative directing. What would be the one thing that you would recommend another entrepreneur do next?
I mean, I think definitely leverage it. If we're talking about AI, I mean, there's a lot of other advice I'd give too. But
This
with
is your-
AI, with AI, with AI, I think leverage it. Definitely don't just take the first thing it gives you, and just use what you already have. Like, you are doing what you're doing because you're good at it. So make sure you don't let that, fall to the wayside because something else can do it for you, maybe 50% as well. But that's what I would say is don't be afraid of it. Definitely be open to it, but also know its limitations and make sure you're still doing the work. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It makes no, I get it, and it's a good directive to leave people with. So, Brad, thank you so much for sharing your.
thanks for having me. It was fun talking.
This has been a lot of fun. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, it's JR. Before we wrap up, I have one more question for you. Are you a visionary entrepreneur who wants to elevate your brand and expand your influence to increase your impact? If this is you, you're the reason we're on a mission to amplify the voices of visionary entrepreneurs by unlocking their wisdom, sharing their stories, and publishing their books. So, when you are ready to level up your business and your life, send me a text to 832-240-1922. That's because I want to teach you to amplify your voice so that your mission and message are seen, known, and heard by those who need your help the most.